friends, welcome to our Midweek Moment. Pastor Nicole here. So glad you clicked on. Well, this week we continued on in our sermon series, When in Doubt, as we're talking about what do we do with doubt in our faith life and how do we stop viewing it as something negative and maybe start seeing it as a way for us to deepen our faith life. This week we had a wonderful guest speaker, Pastor Roxy DeLong from the Illinois State Wesley Foundation, Merge, and she talked to us about why do the innocent suffer. You know, she shared that this is a topic that she talks a lot about with college students, which is why I knew she would do such a great job with the sermon, and she really did. One of the things she mentioned in it that really got me thinking has to do with that phrase, everything happens for a reason. Now, we've talked about that before. It's not my favorite phrase. Like Pastor Roxy said, I like to invite people to reconsider using that phrase. And one of the things that she said was, she kind of just said it sort of in passing. I really was like, whoa, I need to pause and process that because I thought it was so good. She was talking about one of her former college students and who really, really clung to that phrase, everything happens for a reason. And Pastor Roxy said it was her way of just kind of glossing over the hardships that she's had in her life, or not really, I can't exactly remember how she said it, but it was sort of along those lines of like, it's her way of not having to process or dig deeper or to think about those terrible things that happen in our lives and in the lives of others. If we just say, well, everything happens for a reason and move on, then we don't really have to process why bad things happen to good people, because if you believe everything happens for a reason, then it just happens. And there's a reason for it. So you just have to kind of wait it out and wait for that reason to become clear to you. Now, I'm not a big fan of that phrase, everything happens for a reason, because I don't think everything does happen for a reason. And I think that while God is present with us during all things, that God doesn't bring bad things into our life. In fact, I believe God cannot bring anything bad into our lives because God is only good. So that I understand that that is like a platitude, a comfort that like we want to say, there has to be a reason for this suffering. So if I believe everything happens for a reason, then there is a reason for this suffering. But what Pastor Roxy said just really kind of hit it on the head for me, that it's not really a comfort. It's just a way to like not have to process or think about or sit with the grief, the yuckiness. It's really not helpful in the long run, because you're just kind of like suppressing it and pushing it down, and eventually that is going to bubble up. And the way that tends to bubble up is through doubt, because if you keep getting, hit with suffering after suffering after suffering, at some point you're like, okay, is this really happening for a reason? It doesn't feel like it's happening for a reason. It's because it doesn't happen for a reason. Those terrible things, it's just a part of life. Pastor Roxy talked about that. Sometimes it's just weather patterns, or it's just that cancer exists in the world, or, whatever it might be. Bad things just happen. There's consequences to our actions. And sometimes our actions cause consequences to other people that we don't even know. And it might even be that like our actions weren't bad or even sinful, but they have consequences because that's the world that we live in. So anyway, I just was really pondering on that. I really appreciated Pastor Roxy's sermon. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, go watch it online. It's really great. And if you're in a season where you're just feeling doubt around how all this works, if you're feeling doubt because you're going through suffering, or you see the suffering in the world, or somebody you love is suffering, and you just think to yourself, how could this terrible thing be happening to somebody I love, or to me, or in the world? You are not alone. You are not alone. There's a lot of terrible things that are happening all the time. And I think for me personally, it's helpful to remind myself God didn't cause any of this to happen. God didn't cause any of it to happen. It just happens. But God is with us as we move through it, and God is working to bring good out of it. And so instead of thinking everything happens for a reason, maybe we just think everything happens and God is with us through it. So as you're going about your week, maybe that's something you can ponder on and think about, and hopefully that will help you a little bit. But if you're in a season of doubt, that's okay. If you need somebody to help talk to you about that process with, I don't have all the answers, but I'm happy to sit and listen. So I hope you have a great rest of your week. Join us this weekend. We are going to be talking about, is heaven real? So join us for that, whether in person or online, and we'll see y'all soon. Have a good one. Bye.